We'll now begin with the second official town hall of the year. And we'd like to thank you guys for being here, for expressing your opinions as representatives of your classes. As part of Student Voice, we want you guys to share your opinion, share ideas, and basically give us feedback from the student community and student body. And here at the second student town hall, we want to get feedback from what activities makes high school, and what changes would you propose to this. And this is the whole premise of this town hall, to get your ideas and to get the student body to share its voice with us and to the principal. Oh yeah, my name is Gabriel Blanco. This is
I am Triana, and we're both on PAC. And
My name is Trisha May Agni, and
Patrick Lachinsky.
we are part of, and also Luciana's over there, say hi, and we are both part of DECA.
and of course our principal. Not really. However, there are some rules that we need to follow, which are
so, as always, we want to let sure that we are offering up our suggestions. However, we want to do this in a way that's both respectful and appropriate, as well as we want to let you that we're not putting down or name calling or mentioning specific assignments or teachers, but rather we are offering constructive criticism in ways that can not only benefit you as an individual, but benefit everyone as a whole without making anyone feel insecure or bad.
okay. So for the first question that will be presented today is, what makes a successful classroom experience? What activities or what dynamics do you guys think would make a classroom better, or what would make it more fun with that instance?
Really there is, what is it about the dynamic that exists in the classroom that have been good ones for you, like good examples in those classes that you've enjoyed or that you think you've gotten stuff out of? What's the dynamic like there, whether it be between the teacher and the student or between students or whatever? And just we need to use the mics. It sounds kind of silly because you can hear me, but it's more for the live feed, and that's also like a documenting of it, right? So we have a recording of it.
A lot of classes enjoy assignments that use laptops and iPads. That's what my period class thinks.
Okay, and that sort of dovetails into one of the other questions about technologies or resources that we could invest in, because one of the things that I have to do as the principal, one of my responsibilities, is to spend the budget, right? I'm the one who oversees the budget, and so what are you spending things on? And so I'd like to be able to use it for stuff that's useful and that's actually going to be used. So that's a good point, and we'll follow up on that in a little bit as well. More that question, I think what we were looking for is, what's the dynamic like? What's the relationship like? If you were to describe those teachers who seem to get the most out of you, what are they like? Don't tell me who they are, but not the teacher that you like the most, because that's not necessarily the person who gets the most out of you, and you can probably tell that already. And it's not just here. I mean, you might talk about your elementary school experience as well. What was the dynamic like in that classroom that you thought, okay, I'm getting the most out of this experience? What's happening in those rooms?
Our class thinks that like a smaller classroom sizes, so the teacher and the student gets more one-on-one time.
That's the one that's come up in every one of the town halls. So you guys are the last to do it this time. I did the grade 12s and 11s and 10s already. Everybody said the exact same thing. Everybody said class size is hugely important. The truth about class size, though, is it has very little to do with me, and it's more to do with the Ministry of Education. So the ministry says, this is how many kids you can have in a class, the maximum you can have. And it's different for grade 9. You'll find now that you guys are in classes that are anywhere between 24 to 29 is the most you can have, right? You'll get up to, when you're in grade 12, you can have as many as 34 in a class. There are some classes that can have as few as 15. There's some classes, for instance, like if you take tech classes, like the auto mechanics or tech, because of the machines in there, you can only have 20 students in it. So it depends on the type of class. But the truth is, because we're publicly funded by tax money, that always sort of gets cut. They're going to push that as to the limit as much as possible. So I completely agree. So the question is then, how can we, as the people who have to run the school, create situations in which the class feels smaller, which means how can we create situations in which the teachers can be as individual to you as possible? That's a challenge, but you're right.
I believe that hands-on activity are really like, I guess, they help you learn better, in my opinion.
So what's like, tell me what a hands-on activity as an example is.
I guess where you are able to do the activity yourself with, like, as in you're learning it by doing it. And
You can be specific on this one. What's a specific example of a hands-on activity that you thought was useful?
maybe in I guess auto mechanics. Say instead of like reading about it, maybe watching a few videos, you could just like actually learn by like going into an auto mechanic garage and like learn about it from people. And
That's a good example. And you do know, I mean, you guys are in grade 9, so you don't have those options yet, but you do know we have that here at the school, right? We actually have an auto mechanics garage. So a working garage with hydro lifts and all that stuff. So they're doing changing oil and changing and putting on different tires and fixing engines and all that stuff. So we actually have that. Very, very practical. Great course to take. Okay. So there's some that are kind of obvious because those are the courses that you have to have it in. What are other examples of that stuff, or what else?
Definitely a class. Wait, okay. Definitely a class that has a safe environment, like a teacher who definitely tries to get a closer and deeper level of their students.
And what do you mean by, you said two things that I find interesting there.
Oh.
Safe environment, you said?
Yeah.
And a teacher who tries to get a deeper understanding of their students?
Yeah.
What do you mean by both of
A
those?
safe environment, like some kids are scared of others. I guess kids who have like anger issues and stuff like that. So if you put them in another class, I guess kids will be kind of like, oh my gosh, do I have to go to this class? Oh, can I just stay in the washroom? I don't want to go. And what I mean by like teachers who get a deeper and closer students, I mean like who try to connect with them on a deeper level instead of other kids who just try to learn whatever. Can I ask like if I ask a question and you'd be like okay, oh my god. Like if I ask a question and the teacher's answers, they're not really connecting with me, they're just answering the question and just like instead of, oh, do you need help, they're coming around and asking for help. That's kind of like what I mean, like a deeper connection with it. Yeah.
So they want to know what you need to know, not just what they think should be known.
Mhm.
And you make a good point about safety. I mean, that's one of those, there's a lot of studies about school environment and making the environment a better place and can you improve the environment. And the first rule is a safe one. Right? You can have all the bells and whistles and all the technology in the world and fancy lighting and cool chairs and interesting tables but if you don't feel safe there, it really doesn't matter. Like everything else is canceled out. So you're right, and I think I've made that commitment at the grade level assemblies. We talked about that, and it also says it's interesting because in the Education Act it says about my job, role of the principal. There's about 80,000 things there, but the first one is maintain a safe school. It doesn't say anything about education. It says maintain a safe school first. So that's why we're completely committed to that. If somebody makes somebody else feel unsafe, they won't be here. They just won't. So that's the first commitment that we can make to you. But then it's about feeling safe in that classroom too, right? Should I ask a question, or will I look dumb if I ask this question, or will I get an answer, or will it annoy the teacher because they got so much to cover? So again, that feeling that you can, really what it is do you feel you can fail in a classroom and still learn something from it? Because you never learn anything from the right answers. You don't, right? If you know the right answer, then you're not learning anything. You have to make a mistake and learn from that. It's the only way you learn. Very good. Excellent.
Okay, so there's another question, or it's not really a question, but like I like how sometimes there's always that one teacher who's really approachable and like you could just tell them like how you're feeling. And sometimes sometimes there's just those teachers who just come to school just for work, but like they don't interact with the kids. And like there are these teachers around the school who see you and they know, or they have a feeling that you're having a bad day, and they're just like, oh, good morning, how are you? Like I like those teachers who are very approachable and nice.
So what does an approachable teacher look like?
Well, an approachable teacher looks like, well, they always have a smile on their face.
Hmm. So approachable just means they seem like you can go to them for things.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily big, deep, huge conversations, but like I think you said, they just say, "How are you today?" or "Have a nice day." So little things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a study done in the States actually of one class, a teacher and teachers in this one school, I think 10 or 15 of the teachers had 2 or 3 different periods, and they decided in one class all they did differently. It was the same level of students, the same curriculum, and they all had 2 classes that were kind of exactly the same level of students, same curriculum. And in one class, they did the only difference they did was they stood at the door when everyone came in and they said hello and named each kid as they came in, and they did that every single day. And they saw that the students' achievement was up by like 20%. Like it was a marked difference. And all they did was say, "Hey, good morning," whatever your name is, and whatever your name is, good morning. They didn't say whatever your name is, they actually knew their names. And then the other class, they didn't do that. They just did what they normally do, was, do this stuff. And they saw an incredible increase in their ability. So that's a really good point.
Okay, so for my math class, there's a lot of posters around our class, and they're kind of punny in a way, where when you read them, they're like,
Like math jokes.
yeah, they're math jokes, and kind of when you're thinking about it on the test, you'll think of the random pun in your head, and they really help with your studies, even though they're comic. It's entertaining, but also educational at the same time. So I think the funny aspect could be helped in classes.
So take the edge off of lessons, essentially, is it? Yeah, make it funny and make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. Good suggestion. Maybe we can move on to a different, what's another topic?
Okay, so in regards to your studies and the assignments that you have, where do you see the connections between that and your outside lives outside of school? And do you feel like what you're learning is essentially helping you outside of the classroom?
I want to give a little bit of a context to this question, only because I've done 3 of these before. And as we talked about it, there was a little bit of a disconnect. And really, what we're talking about here is don't answer that question to think, I'm learning this because I need it for when I go to university, or when I go to college, or when I'm working, I need to know this. That's not connection to your life, because that's not your life right now. Okay? How often do you see something that you're going to use right now? Like you learn it in school, and then I'm going to do something with it. How often do you see that? As 14-year-olds? Be honest. What does that silence? Is that telling me something, or is it just you don't understand? I don't know.
Okay, so basically, school in general, I think it has taught me and everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone can relate. It pretty much taught me about how to be patient, and I could use that in my life because before high school, I was a very impatient person. And coming into high school, I think the teachers, they all just taught me how to be patient and to just succeed.
So how do you learn patience? What has happened in high school different than elementary, perhaps, that has taught you that?
Well, in elementary, for me, my grade 8 teacher was always telling me like, oh, you can hand things, like for the whole class, she was just like, oh, you guys can hand things in a week. But in high school, right when you come inside, Nicole, you put that on the table. It just teaches a lot of people like that things change in life and things aren't always going to be the same.
Okay. And you got to be able to adapt to that.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Okay, so about how you're talking about comparing elementary to high school, I think that high school really taught most of us, I'm pretty sure, that to be more self-regulated and independent in your work. Like how...
What does self-regulation look like?
Pardon?
What is self-regulation to you? What does that mean?
Like just time yourself with like all of your classes together and to know when to hand in all your assignments and stuff. And I think that like with the whole independence and everything, it more like helps you with knowing that you're not always going to be in a group and you need to understand yourself instead of always letting other people answer stuff.
So you're accountable for the stuff you do.
Yeah.
Good, good. Or right here. We haven't had a contact, and then okay.
Can I get a rerun of the question, like, topic one more time?
It's just the question really is what's happening in the classrooms that you're seeing. I think it's evolved a little bit here, and I think it's a topic I'd like to see is what do you think that you're getting out of high school now? And the follow up to that would be, and maybe you guys want to think about this, is what's the difference that you're seeing between elementary school and high school? You're in that position now. You've almost done a year. Do you think you were well prepared to come to high school? What would help you to be more prepared? Those are things that we could help with. So think about those things.
All right. So at my elementary school, like they didn't really teach you any life skills, like how to survive in high school, the expectations and everything. When I came here, it was pretty much a shock and my mom would always tell me when I'm at home, like, you know, you have certain expectations to live by. They're different than elementary. So I think that high school actually helps with necessary life skills that should help you in your regular everyday life.
Okay. Good. Over there, and then people were jumping on a few.
Okay, so I just wanted to go back with like the individual and like kind of group work. I find that a lot of people in grade 9 they prefer individual work more than group, because I find they trust themselves more with their work and how they plan. But for those people, I find when it comes to the group work, they just want to completely take over. And I find that with their group skills, which in my opinion helps nowadays because I'm very athletic, so I play a lot of team sports. So I find that doing these group activities on top of individual, it helps us grow as both individuals and working with others. So I just find that there needs to be a little bit more group activities because people are having kind of difficulties with collaboration.
And there's a really good point there, right? And people think that collaboration and group work are the same thing, right? That as long as I'm doing group work, I'm collaborating, but really not necessarily you are, because you said yourself, sometimes in a group, one person just takes over and does everything,
yeah.
And that's not collaboration. But the truth of the matter is, folks, is probably, I like that idea of self-regulation. That was you who mentioned self-regulation, right? That's a really good one too. That's a really good skill. But aside from that, you probably think collaboration is probably the most important one going forward. Because the way the world exists now is you're not really going to solve any problems by yourself anymore. You're not going to work by yourself. Those days are pretty much gone, right? You're going to be collaborating with people literally all over the world, all the time, on everything that you do. So you need to be able to, you said you trust yourself when you're doing your work. You need to be able to figure out how to trust others too. And that's not blind trust. You need to be able to pick the proper people to work with. And I know the temptation when you do group work, you tell me this if this is wrong. If a teacher lets you pick your group, who do you pick? Is that a good idea all the time? Right, but you still do it. You're still going to do it. So the idea is, the hope is that maybe by the time you get to grade 11 or 12, you're saying, okay, if I get to pick, I'm going to pick the people that I need to work with. And then it'll definitely be that situation when you get to university and the workplace, you're saying, okay, I'm going to pick the people who I know can get the job done. Because my success is based on theirs. Well, that's a good one. And then we got to start thinking about how could we do that.
Okay, so this is kind of related to what you said before, like elementary school to high school. I think summer school really helped a lot with the transition because I really got to learn about the school and like made friends.
Who here did the grade 9 transition course? Good. Okay.
And I think if it's more like advertised and like put around the school for grade 8s, that they'll have a better experience in high school, most likely, because it really relieves a lot of stress because you're not coming in high school like blinded.
What was good about it?
I liked how I got to meet people from other schools and got to make friends before I got into high school, because I feel like that's a really important part of high school, making friends. Yeah, to like work better, be happier in high school.
Well, that's a good endorsement for sure. That's a really good program. Okay.
Okay, now you guys are grade nines, and like coming as myself coming as a grade nine, it was scary to come to this big school without like having like to make new friends and stuff. But you guys are already, yeah, it's already been a year, and you guys already know the high school experience and how like things work here. In your opinion, what resources or what things could we implement in the school to make this transition better, or like what could we do to make high school a little bit more enjoyable, or like make it better for either the grade eights are coming here, or like for the students that are already here at the school? What could we implement?
My class finds that like our school needs like a study lounge, like a place that we can go during like lunch to study if we have like third and fourth period tests and stuff.
So a place other than the cafeteria.
Like a quiet place.
Okay. So there's some challenges with that. I'll be honest with you. Okay, what are the challenges? The challenges are that any place you are, I have to be able to monitor it, right? I have to be able to supervise it. So who do I get to supervise it? That's a question. The cafeteria is supervised, but the good thing about the cafeteria is it's also supervised by cameras, right? We have security cameras. I can't put security cameras in any teaching areas. So I can't have security cameras in here. I can't have them in classrooms. So it's not like I could open up a classroom and have somebody, ducking in and out and then being able to know that the cameras are on. I can't do that. So there is a challenge to that. And the other challenge to that is a place like the library here is actually, I have to get staffing for that, right? I get a form that tells me you have this many teachers for this many teachers for this many teachers, and then I have to staff it. And that library, to be able to keep the library open all day, I basically need 10 sections, right? There's four periods a day, so I need each of those 4 periods, but because of the 2 lunches, I need actually 5 periods each semester. So that equates to, on my form, a 10. That's been cut to 7 for next year. They tightened it, right? You've heard that the board is a budget crunch and the ministry has cut funding. It's cut down to 7. So you have to be creative about how do we supervise these things? What other spaces could we use, right? That's why in that big, the pit behind the cafeteria, that's why you have those tables. I can't put chairs in there because there's not room and there's fire regulations about having to be able to exit and stuff like that. So I can't put chairs there. That's why those tables. We're trying to come up with things. If you have an idea, you should tell me. Like, I mean, I'm not saying right now, but if you as a group come and say, can we talk to you? By all means, I would love to have that conversation. What's the worst possible thing I could say to you? No, that's the worst I could possibly say, right? And probably I wouldn't say no. I'd probably say, hey, maybe we can try this. That's sort of like that. So I would encourage you to have ideas. Please, you can come to the office and just ask to talk to me if I'm here. That's the problem sometimes, but. What else? I'm quite serious about the resources though, because like I said, I have to be the one who signs off on purchasing things. We've purchased some computers, some iPads, some things like that, but there's other stuff. Or is the stuff that we're using that we have useful? Because I don't want to keep buying something that isn't being used. What do you think?
Okay, sorry. It's kind of silly. It's kind of silly for this part of the topic, but our class, we kind of find that like for helping, how do I phrase this? For helping us, it's like we find that in most classrooms we have we find that there's 2 different types of chairs, and people are tending to get distracted while studying because they have like some chairs they wobble back and forth. Some people find it irritating that trying to study because they're getting distracted by trying to keep their balance on one side or not. But yeah, I have an example of like one of the chairs because there's like these ones we're all sitting on now. and I can't see anyone's in here, but like I have a picture on my phone that I could pull out. But we had to do the comparison, so we had something at least.
So I think but we talked about that, like the physical realities of your room are going to dictate success in certain times, right? It will impact you. The question I always ask is, would you set up, if you were to pick a learning environment, and you do this, right? I mean, you have a room in your house where you go to do work. Everybody does. It might be their bedroom, it might be down the basement, it might be the kitchen or whatever. Does it look like any classroom? Does it look like any one of your classrooms? Is there something inherently wrong with that? Is it something inherently wrong that the learning environment that all of you would pick looks nothing like the learning environment that all of you exist in? So maybe we can't make it look like your bedroom. I'm not going to put up, beds in every classroom, and that's not going to work. But we should spend some time thinking about what can we do? Comfortable seating, different seating. I mean, the truth is that we have the same size chairs and desks for every student. And I don't know how much you have to look around to see that we don't have the same size students everywhere. Can we have different sizes? Can we have adjustable seating and adjustable tables and things like that? That's what we're looking into. And I'd rather spend money on that than some of the stuff that I have to spend money on, or that people think I have to spend money on. Right? So it's a matter of, the other thing is, remember, if you're going to spend money on something, you got to spend less on something else. So we got to figure out that balance, right? What else? What other things or tools look like they're useful?
For my class, we thought that something that could help the school and students is to have more time to get to class, because we only have 5 minutes, and sometimes it's not enough for some people will live far, and they might not come in as early, and we might need more time to get into our lockers and get some things, and some people mess up their code and all that.
So you're talking about a later start in the day?
No, just have more time to get to class.
So more time in between classes?
Yeah.
What's that going to lead to? What do you think? What does that mean?
Well, I just think it's
a longer day, right? So the day wouldn't be 2:30. You'd have to be 2:45, 2:50, or whatever. The other thing about that is, and this came up yesterday, but there's a tipping point, right, where there's too much time, right? And I have a feeling that if we change the schedule to 10 minutes in between classes, do you think the amount of students being late would go down dramatically? Do you really think it would go down dramatically? Okay. What do you think the difference between lates on a normal 8:30 start and the difference between lates on a late start is? Nothing. There is no difference. In fact, I would argue that there's probably more people late on the 10:30 start than on the 8:30 start. That's 2 hours, and people are still late. Self-regulation? Maybe self-regulation says, I got to figure out how to get myself from A to B in 5 minutes. And sometimes A to B is right next door, right? You might have a class right next door. When I went to school here, I was a student here, right? When I was my first grade 9 classes, I had science in the science wing, and then I had French right across the hall. Those were my first 2 periods, and my locker was in that hallway. Easy breezy, that was no problem. But then I had to go out to a portable to be taught by Mr. Palazzo, but I had to go to a portable, and then I had to come back, and then I had to go to another portable, and the portables were all in different places when I was here. And then I had to get back, and then I had to come for basketball practice. So then it was different, right? So sometimes A to B is real easy because it's right across the hall. Sometimes it's the outside. But I would argue, before I would talk about going to a 10-minute, I don't know if I would have. Maybe we do next year, we say, okay, we're going to do a test pattern and say, today we're going to have this different schedule. It probably won't happen, but would that change things? Or where's the incentive on you to say, I got to get from A to B in 5 minutes? Now, I do acknowledge the fact that some of the hallways are incredibly cramped, right? I do, I get that. They're tight, low ceilings, tight walls, and they're not built for the amount of students that are here. I get that entirely. And that might be a reason to maybe say we need to add a couple minutes in between. That's a possibility for sure.
How you said about studying, you could put tables outside because people hang out outside, so it's kind of a quieter place for them to hang out.
Outside, outside. You mean outside the the building.
Yeah, just like not too far, like maybe outside in front of the doors or in the courtyard. Because like people hang out there and like sometimes it's like really hot and you can like put tents or something for them to like I don't know, like to not be in the sun.
Yeah.
Because some people don't like to be in the sun too much.
I totally like the idea of utilizing the outdoor space for sure. And we have a lot of it, actually. We have quite a bit of space. And the courtyard's a good one. What's the drawback of outdoor space? Yeah, we live in Canada. So the courtyard is great for like 2 months of the year, maybe 3, really. And so you're right. I mean, we have been looking at that. I know Dr. Clovis with the Environmental Council was looking at constructing some like picnic table sort of things. And even there was talk about doing some tables, which I might investigate a little more, in front of the school around those trees, like building tables around the trees, because then you get some shade. The problem with outside the school, you got to worry about vandalism. You got to worry about what happens in the summer, right? If we put money into it and they just get destroyed because somebody decides to be an idiot and destroy stuff. That's why I like the courtyard, right? Because the courtyard is contained. No one's going to get into it. And so, yeah, I would love to hear ideas about what you could do with that space. Absolutely, for sure. And I would listen to those. What other resources? What should I spend my money on this for the school? Tell me. Whoa.
Sorry about that, you know. Anyways, okay, no, for the money, for the school budget, like I really think we should get new lockers.
Like the actual physical lockers.
Well, maybe like just the insides, upgrading them, you know.
Okay. Just so you know, there's certain things that that aren't my budget, right? So for instance, some people said, well, can we fix the air conditioning and the heater? I agree, I totally agree. But that's not, gladly that doesn't come out of my budget, because if that came out of my budget, I wouldn't have a budget, right? The air conditioning system in this school costs about $1 million. And I don't have $1 million in my budget. So those are things that the school board actually has to pay for. And they have an ongoing budget for that. The lockers is one of those things, that's actually facilities. And we can take a look at that. But there's a shelf life on those things, right? So they have to be replaced after a certain amount of time. Now, as far as I know, most of the lockers, the school's been built in 3 different sections, but most of those lockers are at least, the youngest ones are 25 years old. So I don't think they've been replaced, to be honest. So that's something to look into. Is that going to improve your learning?
It can improve my lifestyle.
Your lifestyle.
Oh,
okay. Good idea.
All right, so for this, it's to do with our cafeteria seats. We find that at multiple benches, we find that they're missing the actual seat. It's just kind of the poles sticking out.
I would recommend not sitting there.
Because sometimes, because I know second lunch is very busy and trying to find a spot is quite problematic. So say you're going with a group of friends and you kind of arrive early, but still there's some, a lot of the seats are still taken. You could go to a table and there may be 2 or 3 seats in that on that one part of the table where there's no seats, and it kind of makes it awkward for most students because it's like you're standing and eating. You don't really have much choice other than going to sit outside on the floor and eat.
Yeah, and that's disgusting. I don't know why no one should eat on the floor outside. I wouldn't do that. So you're saying that perhaps we should be looking into updating, replacing the furniture in the cafeteria would help with your lifestyle, your high school lifestyle experience, but maybe not your high school academic experience and the success of your academics. But if you're comfortable and your back is feeling good, then you'll do better on tests and things like that. Okay, I see where you're going with that.
Group studying.
Group studying.
Yeah,
that's what you're doing. Group studying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I tried.
What else? Yeah.
I feel like one of the things we should spend our money on is ebooks or computers for like 1 per class, I guess, because like say websites like D12, a lot of people or some may not have like phones or mobile devices that they can bring to school to learn or use to learn, and I feel like one for each class would be like enough. But like I feel like the problem with that is that there's like really little space. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. The classrooms aren't that big. In fact, probably the biggest classrooms that we have are the portables, really, are larger than the actual classrooms are. Well, the science labs, yeah. But again, because the science lab bench seating and stuff like that, there's not a lot of extra room in there, right? And the materials that have to be in there. So you're right. And I mean, I think maybe that's a really good idea. Maybe the idea is maybe I should look to spend some money on getting a couple laptops in every classroom that are just there for student use. But again, the hope is that you're using stuff like D2L or those things that can help it. Yeah.
According to academics, I have to say school is doing really well, but I'd like to see that they have a bit more laptops per cart because some people they don't get laptops or some of them are like too slow, they don't boot up quick enough.
Yeah. So those, if you get the netbook cards, the netbook, the black ones, they're older, right? I mean, those are about 4 or 5 years old, and they are slow. I get it; they totally are. And then if you use the Chromebooks instead of those, you see the difference, right? The Chromebooks are instant on and instant off. And we got those Chromebooks on a special one because last year we won the Staples Award for environmental activism, and we got a lot of money from Staples. So we got those. So we were like one of the only high schools that has Chromebooks. But we will be getting some more next year because they're releasing. So no other schools can buy those yet. There's a certain things we can buy. I can't go buy anything I want. But we will be getting, that will be released to us. And when that happens, I'll buy another card for sure. Absolutely.
And since high school lifestyle is still on the table, I'd like to bring up the fact that this probably isn't part of your budget, but I'd like to see cleaner washrooms for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that the first. I don't think clean washrooms necessarily. Yeah, I mean, the first town halls we had, I said, well, I should get to know the washrooms, I guess, because I don't use the washrooms that you guys use, or I haven't in 20 some years or whatever it is. That's more than that, isn't it? Oh, it is more than that. Oh God. So it is quite a bit more than that. And so I did a tour of all the washrooms. Mr. Kuzak, the head caretaker, and I went to all of them, including the girls' washrooms. There were no girls in there. And yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Some of them are disgusting. And it's showing its age. The school's 31 years old now, and it's starting to show its age. You're right. And I've already had conversations with facilities people about what can we do with this stuff. It's poorly lit, damage. It's really just lipstick. You keep just fixing a door and rehinging something, and it's going to break down, right? And maybe we've gotten to that point. But again, that's a part of all I have there is influence. I can't do something about it. I can influence people who can do something about it, but that's not part of my budget. But you're right. You're absolutely right.
It had something to do with also the bathrooms. There's a bathroom by the resource room, and the mirror is like covered all over. And there's like some mirrors are like they're really dirty, and you can't even see yourself, and you'd have to go all the way upstairs just like to see yourself clearly.
Yeah, I'm looking at replacing all of the mirrors in the bathrooms. The problem with that is you might notice that I don't know if there's any bathrooms that have actual glass mirrors. And there's a reason for that. It's a rather unfortunate reason for that. Is that in the past, in other schools, people have broken the glass so as to harm themselves. They break the glass and then they cut themselves with it. And so schools across the province took those out. So they're like either a metal, one of it is like a brushed metal, so it shines and then you get, but the problem is that as soon as that gets tarnished, you can't see yourself anymore. And that's what you might be looking at going, what is this? I don't even think this is a mirror. I think this is just a piece of metal they stuck on the wall. That's what that actually is, but it has to be polished. So I've got to look into that a little bit more. And Mr. Kuzak, the head caretaker, and I are looking at what can we get that actually works. Because you're right. I didn't realize because I don't, like I said, it's been a while since I've used those washrooms.
Another issue about the washrooms are like the toilet paper. Because like, I actually know some people that actually bring their own toilet paper from home because they say the toilet paper at the school is not that good because it's like one ply and it's like you can't really wipe under there really properly.
Okay, I did not expect the conversation to go on. So this will be the last conversation that we have about bathrooms for now. But again, there are certain standards by which the board just, like, we don't choose that, right? It's just, this is what you get, and then that's it. So, you know, maybe reserve a little part of your locker for toilet paper storage, but.
One of the other things is the chairs that are attached to the desk. Some people like can't like are a little far from like writing, and like they have to like sit closer to the desk when they actually just want to move closer to the desk but can't because the chairs are glued or it's like broken, kind of wobbly, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. For the record, I hate those desks. I don't see any purpose to them whatsoever. The reason that people like them is because the chair and desk stay together, so you don't lose one. And you might notice in some classes where they're separate, it's always like, where did the chairs go? Because the chairs get moved or whatever. They're more cluttered because you got to move two parts. But I don't like them at all. Those desks don't talk about collaboration, because in fact it makes it almost physically impossible to collaborate, right? Because they're actually tilted. They're meant to be an island in and of themselves. So but the problem is I can't just replace everything, right? Because again, how much money are you going to spend? There's 1,400, roughly, well, there's probably more than that, chairs and desks and stuff, and combinations in the school. That's a lot of money to replace all that stuff. So what it might say is, going forward, I'm not going to buy any more of those. I can pledge to you that I will never buy one of those, for sure.
Okay. Another thing that our class feels like is that, you know, the TVs we placed in the pits, it's not in a place that we would stop and like look at it. I feel like where they're placed is useless. Maybe having one in the cafeteria would be useful to see what's happening in our school, what kind of events are coming up, instead of like having it in the corner of the pit.
I appreciate that for sure, and I thank you for that. The reason that we put it in the pit, first off, was because, one, we were hoping to draw more people there. I wanted people to stop eating in the hallways. I wanted to use that area as a possible place where people could go. That's why we put the tables there, because literally, like last year when I was principal, like no one used it. There was never anybody there. And now we're seeing a little bit more of people there, but I think it takes some time. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think people are saying that the screens are great if I have 15 minutes to stand in front of them in the hallway. And there's value in that, but the next ones I am purchasing more. So there will be a couple more that'll be in the cafeteria, and that's where those will be. The other thing about that you should know is we'll be releasing soon, in the next week or two, there'll be flyers that you'll see that you can scan, and it'll take you to a site where you can get that on your phones or on your devices at home, because it's a web-based thing. So what you'll get, you won't get all the videos, because that'll eat up all of your data. But what you would just get is the announcements that you can swipe through. So you can see them anywhere, at home, on your whatever. So that, because it's web-based, why not, right? Why don't we just do it? So that's coming really soon too. So you'll be able to get it on demand when you need it. What else?
I have a suggestion. One of the things that shocked me every time the soccer team went to other schools is the fact that like other schools seem nicer, as in they look more colorful. Like if you look at Pope, when you walk in, Pope's pretty grim. Like the walls are pretty, yeah. And if like coming back to the idea that what makes a studying environment better, like when I go home and I go to my room and I see like a blue wall, I'm not saying it helps me study better, but like it gives me like more, it's a better environment to study in. And the fact that like let's say the grade 8s, when they come to the school, like people in general, when they talk about Pope and see, oh, how does school look like? It doesn't just look as encouraging or colorful. Like if you look at O'Connor is like their lockers are pretty nice, and like the walls are painted different colors. And like even like some classes in the school, when you walk in, I don't want to say specific teachers, but like there's some classrooms that have different colors in the walls, and like just walking into those classrooms makes it different than, let's say, a classroom that's like painted gray or like white. So if we look into that money, I think.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. So Senator O'Connor is also a brand new building, right? I mean, it was just built 2 years ago. So it has an advantage there, right? If you had known the Senator O'Connor that was there before, because that was one of the oldest schools on the board. Senator O'Connor, the school is 50-some years old, much older than us. But you know, there's that cycle that goes with that, right? If you go up to Jean de Brébeuf, the Brébeuf College School, which is up at Steele's, brand new school, huge atrium, really kind of cool. Yeah, great. But the school before was rather old, right? And when are we getting a new school? I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. But so you got to exist with what you have. I absolutely agree. And whenever a superintendent, who are my bosses, come in, I say, hey, let's go take a walk. And we walk down that hallway. That is like the dungeon of death that walk down there. It's so dark. And then I stop in the middle of it and I say, do you notice anything about this hallway? And they're like, wow, it's really dark. And the ceiling, I could touch the ceiling with my head. And I don't have the vertical I used to have, but I can still touch it with my head. Like flat foot I can touch, and that's not right. Like it just should not be that way. So those are things, those are big things, right? Those are big changes that even if they were starting now, you wouldn't see. So even if they said JPII is getting a new school, the truth of the matter is you would never see it. It wouldn't be done by the time you guys graduate. And it probably wouldn't be done by the time I'm still principal here. Right? I won't be principal here forever. It probably wouldn't be done. Now, I still think the effort has to go. And you should have your parents come to CSAC or whatever it's called now, it's parent council, right? They're talking about that. Parent council's talking about that. Absolutely. And we should still put it out there because we still want people at the board who have that discretion to remember, hey, because what they're hearing about Pope, I'll tell you what they're hearing about Pope is how amazing it is. That's what they're hearing because you guys are doing an amazing job, right? They hear that our test scores are high and they hear about the IB program and they hear about all this leadership stuff and they hear about all those great things and they hear about the sports and the sports and the sports and the sports and the sports. But what I'd like to hear about is despite all that, we could do better if the building was better. But there are things we can do. So what's the worst thing a teacher could say to you if you said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we painted this room? What would you think they might say?
No.
They could say no. And no one would die if they said no. But they might say, okay, or I can check. Right? So I've put that out there to teachers to say, if you want to do it, I'll pay for it. Absolutely. So they know that it's there. So why don't you talk about it? Right? Bring it up. Absolutely, for sure. But to say it to me, I can't go around and paint all the classrooms. And I wouldn't paint someone else's classroom. I wouldn't force that. But if you guys say, as students, we think this would be a good one, you might have seen some classrooms. Maybe you can even see some classrooms that have writing on the walls and things like that where students are putting sayings. All that stuff's great ideas, and it's just paint. It's real easy to even paint over if you wanted to. That's not that big of a deal.
As a member of sports teams of this school, I think we need a new track and a new field because they're pretty not that great.
Okay, your wish is my command. So what we just learned was that, and I guess I can tell you, sure, I'll tell you. So our track is going to be used for the Pan Am Games. Yeah, absolutely. They just came to us for some stuff. So in a couple weeks, they're going to fence off the whole track, and they're going to rip the track up and put a new track down. Yeah, no, they won't. It's not like a rubberized sprint track because they're using it for actually, in the southern countries, rollerblading or inline skating is really cool, really big. So they actually have inline speed skating. So the events here are going to be inline speed skating. So they do these guys go 50, 60 kilometers an hour on the track. It's pretty serious. So they're going to tear up our track. Our track is an old asphalt track. So they have to do a new asphalt track, but it's a much better one. So that's going to happen this year. It's going to happen in the next few weeks, actually. And Pan Am will be here. So you can watch TV and you'll see the track.
Wait, okay, so does that mean Pope is getting a bunch of money from that? Because,
No.
we're going to get rich.
We are getting no money. But the track is done for free. So that's what they do that. So the legacy, that's what they call legacy. So the Pan Am Center, has anyone been to the Pan Am Center? I just got a tour of that the other day. That's amazing. That's unbelievable. That's what's called a legacy, right? Is the Pan Am, the government funding goes in to put that in. And you might sound odd, they built that whole building and they're going to use it for 5 days, right, in the Pan Am. But what's left then is for it to be used for community events and all sorts of things. The same thing here is they're going to use this track for 2 days, 3 days of training, 2 days of actual competition. But then what it's going to be left for is so that we can use it so that all the elementary schools, if you guys ran track in elementary school, you probably did it here. So all that's going to be used for it. So there you go. So you asked for it and you got it right away. Imagine that. How I deliver it right there. Do you have a question?
I know as a student myself, one of my concerns is going in different classrooms and the temperature being different. And I feel like that does contribute to my learning to a degree because, I mean, we're all sensitive. You go to a classroom that's extremely hot and then your next classroom is extremely cold. It does bother me. So personally, I just want to know, do you guys feel like that should be fixed or that should be improved on?
Thank you, moderator, for asking a question that I can't answer. But that's another one of those things. I totally get it. Absolutely. And at the beginning of the year when it was 40 degrees and it was 45 degrees in here, and then during the winter when it was minus 40 and it was minus 20 in some of these classrooms, it wasn't minus 20 in any classrooms, by the way, but and I tried to address it individually. So there's space heaters in some classes that we bought, and I had lots of conversations that weren't all that collegial or happy with people who are supposed to fix those things at the board and stuff like that about we got to get on this. I'll tell you this. I haven't been in this. I've been in 4 schools where I've worked. I've never been in a school that's got it right. They all have that issue. It just is. It's an incredibly complicated system. And because of the fact that we're a publicly funded board, it's hard to have the resources to be able to fix those when they need to be fixed. That being said, absolutely, we address it. Absolutely, I want to hear about it for sure. But this is a great opportunity to develop resiliency and how to overcome situations. That's what I'm saying.
I also have something to add to the temperature control, climate, everything in the classrooms. Last time I had geography, they had a fan in there. A couple of my colleagues, they tried to plug it in. It didn't work. Peers, okay, that worked. Okay, they tried to plug it in. It didn't work. So basically, during the winter, when we kind of freeze a bit, and then when it warmed up,
I get
sweat
it.
a bit.
I totally get it. I do, and I've been trying to do that. Again, that's not something that I can change. It's something that I can influence, but not change. I don't have that yet.
And also have a suggestion for athletics. I'd actually like to see a football team for this school. Actually, a full contact football team. I guarantee we crush 3 teams.
Okay. So just so you know, there's a reason why there's not many football teams in the city. In fact, in our board, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, I think. I was at a school. I was a VP at Blessed Mother Teresa when they got a football team. It's incredibly expensive, remarkably expensive, and it's remarkably expensive. It's remarkably expensive to run because you have to do stuff like, I'll give you an example. Helmets are between $200 and $400 each. They have to be replaced every 6 years, I think. Even if they're perfectly fine, by law, they have to be replaced. And then the insurance that comes with running a sport like that is very expensive. And you have to have a lot of people.
Excuse the interruption. At this time, we need each class to send a representative to the main office with the number of students in class to pick up a letter to bring back to class to go home. So every class send 1 rep with the number of students in the class. Thank you very much. At this time, thank you.
Now, I would say this, you're not going to find a school, I can guarantee you, that has more sports opportunities than this one. It doesn't exist. I've been at them, it doesn't exist. But if you have an idea for a sport that you'd like, then you need to get 2 things happening. 1, you got to get a teacher who would coach it or moderate it or whatever you want to call it. And 2, you'd have to get enough students to actually participate. So if there's a movement that says we want something, I can tell you right now it's not going to be a football team. I can tell you that. So if you have something like that, then let me know. Let's talk about it. But football's, I don't know. That's kind of a non-starter, to be honest with you.
Can we like have like Pope sweaters, like the athletic sweaters with like hoodies, so like we can wear it during class? Because the ones that we like the regular Pope sweaters that we were allowed to wear in class aren't that warm, and like the athletic sweaters like keep us warmer than like the regular ones.
I can 100% guarantee you that while I'm principal, you will never have a hoodie as a uniform, ever. I won't allow anyone to wear hoodies in the school. Why? You can't have the hoods up because of the cameras. Okay, I won't allow it. People put up hoodies and then I can't see who you are, and I need to be able to see who you are. It's a security issue, okay? But I'd like to, I talk to McCarthy's all the time, right? We review the uniform every single year. And if you were to tell me that they're not warm enough, then I might say, well, do you have another option? Because there's other options, right? Other schools have other things. And if there isn't another option, then maybe we got to find another place to go.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, can we, is it possible for like, okay, so in my locker, I have these black shoes, but like over here, it's like white. Is that like possible to have that as a uniform, or can we just like wear any type of shoes? Because there's a school. It doesn't have like uniform shoes.
Right. And they're not here. All black is all black is all black. That's a slippery slope to go down. Because if you say mostly black, how am I supposed to decide what's mostly black? When I was a student here, back 100 years ago, it was black dress shoes, couldn't wear running shoes. Black socks, couldn't wear white socks. Dress shirt, tie. Yeah. Golf shirts weren't allowed. There wasn't any golf shirts. So we've evolved. You are the beneficiary of the suffering that I had to do as a student. You're welcome. There you go. That's
right. So like with the amount of students here now at Pope, is like the parent council or like even yourself thinking of having like an extension on the school or any construction done to the school?
Yeah. Again, that's not something that we pay for. But the parent council has done that. They did a survey. They did a petition that was at, I think, they did it at the first interview, parent-teacher interview night, and they got a lot of signatures. But then the board announced that they were quite a bit in the hole as far as budgetary goes. We're not on the consideration for an extension. I've made the argument since the first day I was here. I made the argument that we have 13 portables. I made the argument that we have a lot of area. In fact, the plans for the school, the original plans for the school, include a 4th phase. The school was built in 3 phases. Has anybody ever wondered why, out by the fields, there's that big grassy area before you get to the road? That was supposed to be an arts wing. So that was supposed to be an auditorium. There's plans for it, an auditorium, 7 or 8 more classrooms, and proper art classes. That's why the parking lot, that parking lot that just sits up there, you wonder why there's a parking lot up there? That was there for that purpose. So there's also why right next to music and right next to drama, there's like a storage room. That's not a storage room. We put a wall there because that's a hallway that just ends. It just goes to this glass wall. Why? Because that was supposed to be the hallway that went into the next phase. And they stopped the building at that point. They said, okay, we don't have any more money. And they ended up building, I think they built Mary Ward instead of that. Yeah. Because they needed it, because that area was growing so fast that they said they needed to. Hey, I taught at Mary Ward for 12 years. It was a great time, so I have a good feeling for them. So you're right, absolutely. We've made the petition. I bug everybody that I can bug, but I don't have $5 million in the budget of what might have cost to build that. But I bug them all the time. And also the fact that we don't have an auditorium, right? We have no common space. This is the biggest common space we have in the school except for the gyms. The library, which isn't big enough. I get it, totally.
What if we have like fundraisers and stuff, and like what if we have enough money? Can we do it then?
$5 million?
Not just that, like there's
that's a lot of chocolate covered almonds, I think. No, to be honest, to be completely frank, the way ministry, so the ministry pays for everything, right? The ministry pays, and they give boards X amount of dollars that's for what's called capital renewal. So capital renewal means capital meaning the physical things that you own. So one of it is capital buildings, so building new stuff, and renewal is to fix old things. So you may have been in an elementary school, like if anybody went to St. Thomas More as an elementary school, or if anybody went to St. Malachy's, did anybody go to St. Malachy's? They have a new building now, right? And St. Thomas More has a new wing on their school. So that happens. When it will happen here, that's a good question, and I think we're kind of due, to be frank with you. I think we're due for ours. I don't know when it's coming though.
Wait, okay. So for fundraising, what and you know how we have pennies for heaven, pennies for Pope, or that would help because there's a lot of generous people around the school and they will be a part of it.
Well, but it's not your job to pay for that. I would say that the people that get the pennies for heaven money need it more than we need a new wing on the school, for sure. I mean, there's perspective that's had, right? I mean, we have first world problems, and if that first world problems is our lockers aren't really nice enough, and maybe we need better lights, we can live with that, right? So I would prefer myself that the fundraising that we do here, which is fantastic, helps other people. Right? Sometimes you can fundraise to get something. We used to do what was called a pace-a-thon here, a walk-a-thon that raised a lot of money. I would prefer that the money does here. There's other people that should be paying for that. Absolutely, that should be paying for school buildings and stuff like that. Okay?
Oh, our class feels that when we're coming to school, they don't feel safe because of there not being a crosswalk like really close to our school. So they would like someone to direct traffic if we can't get a crosswalk.
Okay, fantastic, right? This was brought up at the first town hall, and the good news is that some of your colleagues, I don't know why that's funny, but some of your colleagues in grade 10 actually did a project on that. So you're going to take a course next year called civics, and one of the teachers said, well, why don't we take a look at that? And the class actually studied the crosswalks up and then did a presentation to Councillor Ainsley, who's your local city councillor, and he came in and they did the presentation about the crosswalk. And you may have noticed earlier this week or last week, there was 2 cars parked across the street that were parked on the Lamoureux, or the Tam driveway, and those were from the city. They were doing a traffic analysis. So those guys just sit there and count how many people are walking back and forth. So they do. And they're considering moving the crosswalk that's down by Military Trail in the plaza and moving it up. They won't put 2 because, again, I'm going to show my age. When I was a student here, and that crosswalk's been there forever, there was no Bonspiel. You know the houses across the street? None of them were there. There was just empty field. So it made sense to have the crosswalk down there because everybody could come up and cross there and either go to Military Trail or come here. But now that there's there and cars go through there and students walk through there for the bus, our argument is that now you probably makes more sense to move it up to this one. So because of the work that you've done, and this is what I talked about for assignments that were like real world stuff, because of this, the work of some of your classmates, this might happen. So that's in the works now, possibly, I don't know. As far as having someone out there directing traffic, the board doesn't allow, that would be a really bad idea for me to have someone out there directing traffic, because if a traffic incident happened, we'd be held liable for that. The board will not allow us to go out there. We're responsible for what happens on our property. As soon as I was to go out on the street, if I was directing traffic, they would say, you're liable for that, and they wouldn't let that happen. We're looking, the city's looking at doing the crosswalk. Those are expensive to move.
Okay, so we are coming to an end of our discussion today, but I think I speak for most of us up here that the conversations generated were very effective, and the information that we received from you guys will be helpful in planning next year. And we hope that with a lot of the concerns you guys were feeling, that we can resolve those problems, as well as that for the most part, these problems weren't detrimental, or for at least for the most part, they weren't affecting you too much this year.
Thanks, guys. The one thing I would say, if you brought notes, like some of the writing the notes down, if you brought those notes, you could leave them with us, and that's great, because that's another way that we can collect that voice as well. Okay. So other than that, fantastic. Go back to those 4th periods. Thanks, guys, so much. Good job.
Thank you. Bye.
Guys, please bring your notes to this table if you can.